All right, another Jeep session here today. It's day number 7. And today I want to talk about courage. Having courage and what that means and how's that, play out in our life. So the quote today goes, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear." And that's from FDR. The more that I learn about these things and try to be disciplined with these healthy habits, the more I realize how interconnected things like fear and discipline and gratitude are, and I'll kind of unpack what I mean by that. But I know in my life, in years that I've not been consistent or have fallen off track or fallen off in sinful patterns of behavior, I've realized that other things in life, other tumultuous circumstances, it could be some medical scare or something going on with a family member or anything that happens in my life, if I'm not intentionally attacking each day, giving thanks to God, building that foundation, then what I truly notice is all those things that pop up externally in my life that I can't control affect me so much worse, affect me in a way that causes so much anxiety or causes me to want to cower away from attacking and doing what I really need to do in that moment. Again, so I've just truly noticed so many times in my life where the patterns of what I'm personally doing and what I'm able to control the things you can control, right? If I'm not taking care of that home base, if I'm not getting enough sleep and drinking enough water and eating well and exercising, if I'm not taking care of my temple and being a present father and all these things, then everything else, right? Like I said, doctor's appointments, flat tires, someone treating me with resentment out in public. It could be at a pickup basketball game or in traffic or whatever. I'm so much more likely to lash out or to get spun in some spiral down some rabbit hole that does not make me a patient person, and it doesn't make me courageous to do what I would consider to be the hard thing. And a lot of that's with doctors stuff. To be honest, I've had a lot of medical anxiety in my past, and until I've really given things to God and realized that hey, I'm going to control everything in my life that I can, and outside of that, absolutely be okay with the result of things that I can't control. Until I've thought of it in that framework, my tendency is to want to be anxious and non-courageous, if you will. So the quote is that, but then the scripture that relates to it, Joshua 1, I encourage anyone to read through the first few chapters of Joshua if you get a chance, but it's we'll talk about Joshua 1:9 specifically. It says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And that's the Lord and his commands towards Joshua. And I think that's a pretty popular verse in scripture that people go back to. But when I read a few verses up, and until you really dive into this, I must have missed it or just didn't think about it as deeply in the past. But those verses before are really interesting to me as well. In verse 6 and 7, he tells him to be strong and courageous 4 different times. And I think that's interesting because if I am ever having a moment where I want to cancel a doctor's appointment or I want to not do the hard thing that I know I need to do, I'm going to have to be told by God 4 or 5 times because I will absolutely delay and push it off. And it's just so funny to me that it's not just me. This has been going on for thousands of years with people, and God's just continuing to command him. So in verse 6, for example, it says, "Be strong and courageous because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them." Verse 7, "Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the left or to the right, that you may be successful wherever you go." And then again on down to 9, it says again, Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. well, why is it important to be courageous? And maybe in our lives, like we don't even think, oh, like I'm just kind of going through the motions. I don't really feel like I need to be courageous in any given circumstance this week. But and if you feel like there's not really this opportunity for me to be courageous right now, well, maybe look a little bit deeper into your life. Is there an opportunity for you to improve? Is there an opportunity for you to get better this next week, month, year in terms of your daily habit to be the best, husband you can be, or dad you can be, or friend you can be? Because it does take courage to evolve spiritually, physically, to be the best you can for the people around you. And again, like in verse 6 there, he's like, be strong and courageous because you will lead these people out to the land I swore to their ancestors. And I'm gonna have to unpack that further exactly, what he's talking about there. But I can just only imagine, like Joshua, it seems like it's going to be a pretty difficult task for him to do what he's about to do, and probably going to lead to, a lot of altercations and a lot of people being frustrated with him. And it would have been so easy for him to just cower away and maybe even say, like, God, why me? Why are you putting me in this situation? I just want comfort. And I've done that in so many times in my life where I've just ran for comfort, like there was a year, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a year where physically I had an injury. I know I needed to get it fixed. I know I needed to get back to being just healthy, because when I don't work out, I don't eat well. And so a few years back, I was going through this, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to get a golf membership because nothing wrong with the golf membership. I got one the year after as well, but all I did was golf that year because I could kind of do that while being injured. And it was fun and it was easy, but it absolutely was not the thing that I needed to be spending all my time doing. And yeah, there's times where you need that release. But again, just speaking of my specific circumstance, I was not really attacking the things that I know God wanted me to do in that year, which was going to the doctor, admitting you had something wrong with you physically, going through the scary process of getting put under, get it fixed, etc. And that's just one small example. I can look back over the last few years and realize I was just delaying the inevitable of what God had placed in front of me. And thank goodness, long term, I was able to have courage and to get back to the track that I know I needed to be the best dad and husband, etc. So it's funny, it's not always in our timing, and sometimes God's gonna have to tell us 4 or 5 times. But I just think that courage is so interesting because, again, it's not the absence of fear. Your heart's going to be racing. You might feel like, depending on what your circumstance is, you might feel like, I can't even make it through this day. And what I'm dealing with is too big. It's the biggest problem, because everyone's problem is the biggest thing to them. Everyone's problem, what they're going through specifically, seems like it's just the biggest mountain. So have courage. God might have to tell you 4 or 5 times, but just keep leaning into it and know that delayed gratification, it may suck now. You might not think you're going to be able to get through it, but you will come out on the other side of it if you're intentional, if you give it to God, and you just try to evolve into the best person you can be for God. It will work out. And that's day number 7.